युद्ध का देश है, युद्ध हमारी राह नहीं है। चुनौतियां कितनी ही क्यों न हो, चुनौती को चुनौती देना ये हिंदुस्तान की फितरत में है। भारत माता की वंदे वंदे।
Hello, good morning. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. I'm Vinny Motiwala with Michelle D'Souza as well. Sharon, a very good morning to you. We are all rejuvenated after that one-day holiday that we had yesterday, and tomorrow again a weekend. But surely an interesting day that yesterday panned out to be as well.
Absolutely, a very interesting day indeed, Vinny. And since we were on day of break, happy 78th Independence Day, and it was definitely a very momentous occasion because on the ramparts of Red Fort in Delhi were submerged with the echoes of Bharat Mata Ki Jai as the national flag flared high in the sky. The same echoes were heard across the country as well, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Jaisalmer all the way to Gangtok, as 140 crore Indians celebrated their 78th Independence Day. It was Prime Minister Modi's 11th consecutive address from the Red Fort, where he made a strong pitch for a uniform civil code, which he said is the need of the hour. The Prime Minister also added that the 140 crore people were capable of making India a developed nation by 2047, laying down a blueprint of Viksit Bharat at 2047. Prime Minister also said that the world must not get scared of India's growth. The world will grow as India grows as well. And in a strong message to perpetrators of crime against women, the Prime Minister said it was important to instill fear among offenders and call for strictest punishment for crimes against women. Let's actually go across and listen in to what else he said.
मैं कहना चाहूंगा, भारत के लिए गोल्डन एरा है। वैश्विक परिस्थितियों की तुलना में भी देखें, ये गोल्डन एरा है। ये हमारा स्वर्णिम कालखंड है। मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, ये अवसर हमें जाने नहीं देना है। ये मौका हमें जाने नहीं देना चाहिए, और इसी मौके को पकड़ करके अपने सपने और संकल्पों को लेकर के चल पड़ेंगे तो हम देश की स्वर्णिम भारत की जो अपेक्षा और हमें विकसित भारत का 2047 का लक्ष्य हम पूरा करके रहेंगे। 2047 में जब देश आजादी का 100 साल मनाएगा, तब तक विकसित भारत के लिए अनमोल सुझाव दिए हैं। और मैं जब इन सुझावों को देखता था, मेरा मन प्रसन्न हो रहा था। उन्होंने क्या लिखा? कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि दुनिया का स्किल कैपिटल बनाने का सुझाव हमारे सामने रखा। 2047 विकसित भारत के लिए कुछ लोगों ने भारत को मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का ग्लोबल हब बनाने का सुझाव दिया। ऐसे सिविल कोड से जब संविधान के 75 वर्ष मना रहे हैं, और संविधान की भावना भी जो हमें कहती है करने के लिए, देश की सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी हमें कहती है करने के लिए, और तब जो संविधान निर्माताओं का सपना था, उस सपने को पूरा करना हम सबका दायित्व है। और मैं मानता हूं, इस गंभीर विषय पर देश में चर्चा हो, व्यापक चर्चा हो, हर कोई अपने विचारों को लेकर के आए, और उन कानूनों को, जो कानून धर्म के आधार पर देश को बांटते हैं, जो ऊंच नीच का कारण बन जाते हैं, ऐसे कानूनों को आधुनिक समाज में कोई स्थान नहीं हो सकता है। और इसलिए मैं तो कहूंगा, अब समय की मांग है कि देश में एक सेकुलर सिविल कोड हो। देश में व्यापक चर्चा हुई है, सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने अपने विचार रखे हैं। एक कमेटी ने बहुत बढ़िया अपना रिपोर्ट तैयार किया है। वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के लिए देश को आगे आना होगा। मैं लाल किले से तिरंगे की साक्षी में देश के राजनीतिक दलों से आग्रह करता हूं, देश के संविधान को समझने वाले लोगों से आग्रह करता हूं कि भारत की प्रगति के लिए, भारत के संसाधनों का सर्वाधिक उपयोग जन सामान्य के लिए हो, उसके लिए वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के सपने को साकार करने के लिए हमें आगे आना चाहिए।
And let's move on and look at what the global market did yesterday as well and how it closed. The US strong footing that was there in terms of the move that we saw for Dow Jones, S&P 500 closing with gains of more than 1%, while Nasdaq closed with gains of more than 2.3%. As of now, looking at the stock futures, yes, a little bit unchanged, but obviously we've seen a very sharp run-up that came in the markets yesterday on the Wall Street specifically. 500 points is the gain that one saw coming in for Dow Jones, and that overall the sectors that were gaining yesterday in the US market, we did have the consumer service sector, technology as well as consumer goods that did quite well. So yes, strong gains there. Best performers were some of the names like Kisco, which saw a gain of almost 6% coming in on the move. Nike too gained almost 5% in trade. What didn't do well yesterday was Procter & Gamble, that saw a decline. Merck & Company, that was also a bit among the worst performers, as well as Verizon Communication, that was seeing a bit of a fall there. On the specific side of Nasdaq also, we saw good moves coming in from Quantum Biopharma for the Nasdaq. So that's a strong gain of almost a very sharp rise in the performance over there. So keeping an eye out on Nasdaq because that was among the best performers in the Wall Street. 2% uptake. So tech stocks surely were the ones moving. Walmart managed to close at an all-time high level yesterday. They had reported the numbers also last week. So keeping an eye on overall in terms of the US markets. But looking at overall the European markets, let's look at that, where that ended as well. Closed slightly before the US market, but closing on the strong footing as well. Positive side, 1.6% gains for the DAX. Almost 1% of gains for the FTSE that we saw coming in, and cooler than expected inflation data coming in across the globe is something that we're watching out for. US inflation print was also better than what the street was expecting. So that is why that up move is what we are seeing, and that even came through in the European markets. Cheryl, so not a bad day, and we are getting a decent handover right now from the Nifty implied open for the Indian markets. Well, 0.6% of uptick. So not a bad start that we're hoping for today.
Yes, hopefully not a bad start that we're hoping for. But if you look at what crude markets did, actually in overnight trade, you saw a good jump coming in for the crude markets. And this on back of the fact that the US economic data actually allayed fears of a recession. So you saw the markets, or rather the crude prices jump about $1 per barrel for each, be it Brent crude or for the matter of fact for NYMEX crude. But this morning, both of them are actually trading slightly lower in the Asian market trading. If you can look at the prices of that, so your Brent crude that's hovering around $80.88 per barrel, while you had WTI crude that's trading at around $77.93 per barrel. But what's key to note is the fact that despite that, the crude market is all set to post a second weekly gain actually coming in for the week so far. Brent crude has seen an uptick of about 1.6%. WTI crude has seen an uptick of about 1.5%. Apart from that, if you look at the gold market and what gold is doing, is trading pretty flat right now. You saw a strong US economic growth actually, and you saw that the strong US economic growth that sort of eased the fears of recession. So on back of that, you have gold that is pretty muted in trade, hovering around that $2,457 per ounce. So that's the way how the crude market as well as the gold market is doing at this point in time, Vinny.
There are a lot of events that we're keeping an eye out on also today. In the US market, housing starts and some oil rig count data will be coming in. UK retail sales data, so keep an eye out on that. On the domestic front, we have Hindustan Zinc. The OFS opens today for non-retail investors. Welspun Living shares buyback will be closing today. And Dhanuka Agritech shares will open up for buyback. So keep an eye out on that. Other than that, if you want to be eligible for dividend for any of these companies, that's Bata, Concord, Gland Pharma, GCPL as well as Macrotech developers, then it is the last day today to be buying the shares. Other events, Foxconn chairman will be meeting the Karnataka CM. Important updates coming in on that front because Foxconn is one of the biggest manufacturers for those iPhone products here. So how is that going to be shaping up in terms of talks? Keeping an eye on that. And in the global market in the US, we'll have the Fed President Goldsby who will be talking in the evening as well. So any important commentaries from that front in terms of rate cuts? When is it expected? How are they seeing the inflation data point? Is a key factor to watch out for, Sharon.
Right, so those are the key events to watch out for. But yes, while we were shut short for trade yesterday, there was a lot of macro data back in the United States, and there was a big macro fillip coming in for the US equities overnight. The retail sales logged the biggest gain in 1.5 years, with the automobile sales on the forefront. The data also largely alluded to the resilience in consumer spending activity just ahead of the September Federal Reserve meeting. The sales were up about 1% in the month of July. Meanwhile, on an annualized basis, the sales were higher by about 2.7% versus 2% in the preceding month. Meanwhile, the weekly jobless claims dropped to 1 month low by about 7,000 to about 227,000. The Fed's next move becomes very crucial now, given the fact the way how the macro data have panned out. If you look at the market watchers, they're currently estimating a 50-50 chance of a half-point rate cut at the September 18th meeting.
Shifting focus to earnings, Walmart reported another solid quarter as the business has proved to be resilient against the discerning consumers and sticky inflation. In quarter two, revenue grew by 4.8% to $169 million, and adjusted earnings also beat the estimate at $0.6 per share at 9.8% year-on-year basis increase. Now, groceries remain a key business, and the major factor behind the higher foot traffic and ticket size was groceries for Walmart.
And on the flip side, Alibaba missed the top and the bottom line expectations for the June quarter as it continues to face headwinds in the core e-commerce business amidst the rising competition and a cautious Chinese consumer. The revenue was up 4% year-on-year, while the net income dropped 29%. The company has said that the net income fall was primarily due to a decrease in the income from operations and increase in impairments from its investments.
China's new home price fell at their fastest pace in 9 years in July. A slew of support policies failed to stabilize prices and restore confidence in the struggling property sector. The prolonged housing market slump has weighed heavily on the world's second largest economy and its consumers, with analysts saying Beijing's 5% GDP target for 2024 may be too ambitious for them. The new home prices fell 4.9% from a year earlier, and the sharpest drop since June 2015, and a deeper than 4.5% slide in June.
All right, and those are all the top headlines globally. But on that note, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Market Cafe. When we come back, we'll talk about all the stocks making news back home. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe right here on ET Now. And if you look at what's exactly happening in the global markets, yes, US handover was pretty good. And you can see that trickle down to the Asian markets as well. Japanese markets has been having its rally of its own. Remember, the Japanese markets had also seen a very sharp drop last week, and now it is actually been seeing good recovery coming in because this Japanese markets also had a truncated week as well. So Japanese market is trading higher by about 2.4%. You have Kospi also seeing good gains in initial trading session, trading higher by about 1.8%. Just a short while ago, you had the Chinese and the Hong Kong markets that have started for trade. So it is Hang Seng as well as Shanghai. And let's see what they're doing. A pretty picture coming in for the Hang Seng as well as Shanghai as well. Both of them holding on to okay gains. Shanghai is actually trading flat right now. US futures are also edging higher. Both S&P 500 as well as Nasdaq futures are also gaining in trade, and you can see that support on to the Indian markets. And with that, you can see the Nifty implied open indicating a 160-point uptick as of now. So pretty good going for the Asian markets, Winnie. After the US markets, we are coming in with a good handover.
Absolutely a good handover coming in from the Asian markets as well. But welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Let's shift focus. And while we've seen PSU stocks that have been under pressure, new age tech stocks, they have seen a stellar run. The likes of Zomato, PB Fintech have almost doubled from 2024 lows. So is growth making a comeback, and do these stocks have more leg for run up? What is it and how is it that we are comparing it with PSU stocks? What's the trend there? Sharad is here to talk to us about all of that. Sharad, good morning.
Well, yes, the new age stocks, these stocks have been buzzing in 2024, and look at the returns which have come in. Of course, the lead names such as Zomato, PB Fintech from the 2024 lows have actually doubled investor wealth. Also look at Paytm, Cartrade, Nykaa, all of them going up more than upwards of almost 30% returns coming ahead. But these are the growth stocks. And the secondly is the PSUs. If you look at on the other hand, the PSUs, that's where the correction has started coming in. Maybe values taking a backseat. That's the question to ask. Bharat Dynamics is down 36% from their recent highs, and also BML, Engineers India, and even looking at Cochin Shipyard, IRFC, and even Ercon International, be it the defense names or the railway names, all of them are down from their recent highs as well. Now, of course, PSUs might be losing a little bit of flavor, but the new age stocks, they have garnered attention and also momentum in their stock prices. What are the new reasons for the new age tech companies coming back in flavor? Of course, we looked at the four broad triggers. First is, of course, the sectoral churn, which is happening, and of course, valuation changes are happening also across the last 3 to 4 months across various counters. There's a clear path to profitability. That is where most of the new age tech companies and even startups are focusing currently on their work. Of course, the entire focus remains on their core business. So, of course, a lot of non-monetization of non-core assets is also happening. And lastly, there is a strong cash balance because they had raised larger amounts from larger players such as Ps and VCs when they were in their unlisted phase. Now, also apart from this, there are recent listings. The class of 24, which I call, they have performed really well when it comes to the listing. Recently listed Kunal Bal promoted company Unicommerce, that's up 86%. Mind you, these listings happened just last week, something like a Unicommerce, or even if you look at a First Cry. Ixigo, Honasa Consumer, these also have been very strong right from their IPO price. Look at this is given more than 50% return. Also GoDigit and First Cry and Ola Electric, they also make it to the list. So a lot of new age stocks have actually crossed the 2024 test as well, and this year itself most of these stocks have been listed, and you can see the gains which have come from the IPO price. Now let's look at the key commentaries, how it has placed out. Firstly, we'll look at, of course, the Zomato, strong growth coming in the Q-commerce segment, especially the Blinkit core business, and also Paytm. If you look at it, the focus is coming on the insurance and the mutual fund distribution. Also, three more important new age tech companies are there whose commentaries are very encouraging. PB Fintech, if you look at it, is hopeful of a GST rate rationalization, and the stock has been buzzing off late. Also, Nykaa, strong BPC segment numbers came in the first quarter, and they are geared up for the festive season as well. Cartrade, they have turned profitable over the last 2 quarters as well. So the commentary has also been very strong. But now let's look at what the key changes in shareholding has happened over the last 3 to 4 quarters. And of course, Zomato, over here we look at it, Nippon Mutual Fund and ICICI Pru Mutual Fund, they have actually raised their position. Paytm, ace investor Akash Bhansali holds 1.2% stake in the company. Also looking at PB Fintech, there is Franklin, MFN, Axis Mutual Fund actually raising their positions. Interestingly, Nykaa, there are 2 family offices from Hero Group and erstwhile promoters of the Ambuja Cements. They are also having the stake. While Cartrade, if you look at it, Zerodha is holding almost 1.17% stake in the company. So these are the shareholdings which are very important for the new age companies. And also if you look at the target prices over here largely we are seeing a kind of an upgrades coming in across most of the counters, but do remember these stocks have run up. So there's maximum 10 to 20% return potential for these new age tech stocks over the next 12 months as per Bloomberg data.
Thank you so much for that, Sharath, for breaking all of that down for us on the rally that the new age tech stocks have seen, and a lot of investors actually liking that particular entire sector. But one sector that was zooming ahead or actually celebrated the Independence Day with a series of launch, and that is the automobile sector. You had Ola that unveiled its first ever electric bike, while you have Mahindra's Thar Rox. Rox is a 5-door SUV with the price starting from around 13 lakh rupees, while Ola launched its e-bike range with 3 models. And talking about Ola Electric, actually, it launched its first electric motorcycle range at the annual event, that is Sankalp 2024. At its Tamil Nadu-based Future Factory, Ola is introducing 3 motorcycles which will be positioned in the mass and the premium segments, and the booking for the new bikes will be starting from today itself. They also launch the new motorbikes, that is Roadster Pro, Roadster and Roadster X, while Roadster X variant is priced between about 74,999 to around 99,999 rupees. Let me go across actually to Aishwarya, who was there at the launch, and she's here with lowdown of all of that. Aishwarya.
Electric clearly demarcated 3 of its businesses, with Ola Electric housing India's largest EV company. That's their vision for this particular business, with focus, of course, on the scooters, bikes and cell technology business. And they also made announcements in terms of the cell technology space. Will be developing the 4680 cells right here from their gigafactory in Tamil Nadu, which is currently under the works, with a capacity of 1 kilowatt hour. All the way will be expanded to 100 kilowatt hour gradually until 2030 is what they announced. As far as Ola Consumer is concerned, that the vision there is making it India's leading consumer platform, with mobility, financial services and commerce being one of their focuses. And Ola Krutrim, India's first AI unicorn, AI chips, devices and AI foundational models as well. Now, what you see here behind me is Ola's prototype of fully automated electric warehousing system. And when you talk about this particular warehousing system, what the CEO Bhavish Agarwal has said, that this prototype will be working alongside the network of ONDC and can process close to about 7 to 10,000 orders per day, potentially changing not only the face of how e-commerce works for the big tech giants such as Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, all of those, but also how warehousing works for all of these big companies going forward. So we'll see how that really turns out and what kind of adoption we see for this technology that Ola has launched.
Absolutely, an interesting launch coming in there from Ola, but also reported its numbers. We have brokerages also that have come out with a note. Now, HSBC initiating coverage, obviously because it's a recent listing that's there. So, HSBC initiating coverage, buy rating, target price of 140 rupees per share. They said the EV manufacturing cost is expected to fall significantly by FY27, FY28. The barriers for electric two-vehicle switching may fall, and battery venture could be a success for the company. They said it's worth investing given that the sustained regulatory support is there, as well as a positive risk reward is there coming in for the battery as well as battery venture which the company has made. Other than that, obviously just a downside risk that they are highlighting is in terms of the battery plant issue that could be there and a slower penetration for the electric two-wheeler vehicle space. Ola Electric also has a note that is coming from Nomura, where they have estimated 25% share of EVs in two-wheeler vehicle industry by FY30 for the company. Motorcycle is a tougher segment for electrification, so yes, they're keeping an eye on that, though there are multiple price points that Ola is offering in terms of the range also, and that is why they continue to have a positive view on this one, so keeping an eye out on Ola Electric.
Right, that is all about Ola Electric then. And like I mentioned, you had also Mahindra that finally launched the Thar ROXX, also known as the Thar 5-door, with a price starting from about 12.99 lakh rupees for the petrol range, while 13.99 lakh rupees for the diesel range. My colleague Sumit was there to get the first look of the car and also tell us what else did the company say at the launch. Sumit, over to you.
Mahindra & Mahindra has finally launched its much-awaited Thar ROXX. Well, this Thar ROXX is a 5-door version of earlier Thar. Thar was a lifestyle product launched by Mahindra. It was a hit in the market, but there was demand for a complete family kind of vehicle as well, for which Mahindra launched this Thar. Well, the looks, if we talk about it, it's completely, we can say that it's all based on the earlier Thar. The front grille, the overall bumpers, the front look, everything is like earlier Thar. But from inside, yes, things have changed. If we show you from inside a bit, things are different in the sense that first, it's a 5-door Thar, so the overall space is more. The space is going to be more. If we talk about the space features, yes, it is more connected, more tech driven, it is more loaded with features. That's what we can say. Engine is 2.2 liter, both in petrol and diesel. It's a proper 4x4 SUV. Inside, yes, they have given a panoramic sunroof. That's what is coming in the SUVs of nowadays, in all the SUVs. So it competes with not just lifestyle products, but a proper SUV in the market in India. Mahindra & Mahindra, as we know, is a SUV maker. It wants to keep itself a dominant SUV player in the market, and definitely Mahindra ROXX will help it in doing that. Sumit Chaturvedi from Cochin for ET Now.
Thanks so much for that, Sumit. But what are the brokerages saying about this launch? Morgan Stanley maintains overweight trading target price of 3,304. They said this launch, the 5-door package, looks quite impressive. And in the past also, M&M has seen quite a success that has come in its launches in the past 3 and 5-door variants. And they said that overall, this will remain the fastest growing PV company. And they believe they see a strong jump in terms of sales driven by festive demand. That will be positive. Nomura too continues to be positive on this one. They said the Thar ROXX potential is there to redefine the urban SUV, and they believe ROXX sales could go up to at least 8 to 10 lakh units per month. Initial response is likely to be quite strong. They expect 50,000 bookings on the first day, and they believe this could be a cannibalization with Thar 3-door variant. So keep an eye out on that. They're expecting 10K, that's 10,000 sales per month. Keeping an eye out for Thar ROXX, the launch that is there, and M&M surely going to be in focus.
Absolutely, and they will be in focus because you will have both the managements right here on ET Now. You can catch Rajesh Jejurikar of M&M as well as Bhavish Agarwal of Ola Electric on ET Now, giving out their views on the way forward going ahead for the companies. But moving on then, it's now a good time. Is it a good time to buy a car or an SUV if you have already had an eyes on? We will tell you that because it's not just the shorter wait list that awaits you on many models as compared to the long wait list earlier. The vehicles are also available at mouth-watering discounts. Sumit is here to decode all of that for us. Sumit.
The situation in Motown has changed drastically within the last year. No more waiting lists, and the discounts are significant as the auto market is witnessing a fall in demand while inventories build up. The COVID-19 pandemic earlier resulted in severe global shortages in supply of semiconductors, leading to huge waiting periods across brands. But companies slowly increased production as semiconductor availability eased, and now the market has turned. Many models and variants of vehicles are available off the shelf.
Fortunately, supply side issues are behind us. So Ertiga used to be in high demand. We have increased the capacity of Ertiga. CNG models were in high demand. We have debottlenecked some CNG production and components procurement. So cars are fairly accessible, yes.
M&M's XUV 700 has had a long waiting period running into 6 to 8 months since its arrival. But the waiting periods have now been reduced to under 2 months for all trims. Toyota compact SUV Hyryder's waiting period is also down to 2 to 3 months from 5 to 6 months earlier. Maruti Suzuki Ertiga waiting period is also down from 8 to 9 months to 3 to 4 months now. There are some vehicles with a zero waiting list, including Tata Tiago, Hyundai Grand i10 Nios, Maruti Suzuki Jimny, Renault Kwid, and Skoda Kushaq. Alto K10, Espresso, Celerio, Wagonar, Swift, or even the Baleno. All these cars are easily available with a maximum wait time of 2 weeks, either in their CNG or petrol formats, manual or automatic. From MG's side, Comet, Aster and ZS EV are delivered in under 3 weeks in your preferred spec and color. Discounts now range from 15,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees on many hatchbacks, while they can be as high as 65,000 on Hyundai Alcazar or 1.5 lakh on the Mahindra XUV 400 EV. However, some models and variants are still on the wait list, and companies say they are increasing production to reduce waiting periods. In the luxury car market, Mercedes has a waiting list ranging from 2 weeks to around a year on its cars and SUV models, while Audi and BMW have shorter waiting times. Mercedes-Benz says that it has increased production, but it still has around 2,000 cars in total to be delivered. To clear its waitlist, Toyota's Indian arm will invest Rs 20,000 crores on fresh capacity creation in Maharashtra.
I can tell you that the waiting list has come down drastically. And that's because of the number of steps that we've taken, which includes the start of the third shift, which has added a capacity of around 32,000 new vehicles per year, which is around 30% increase in availability of the vehicles that we put on the roads. In terms of abnormal high levels of inventory at the dealer side, that's not what we are witnessing.
However, currently it is the monsoon season and the coming Shraddh season when there is less demand for cars and more discounts and higher availability. Companies warn that with the festival season kicking in, the waiting list on a few models can get longer, and so the current climate offers a unique opportunity to take advantage of significant savings and less waiting. Sumit Chaturvedi, ET Now.
Okay, that was all about auto and what is happening in the world of the auto sector. A lot of new launches there. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. More updates after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. As of now, Nifty implied open showing an uptick of around 0.7%. 24,347 is what the Nifty implied open is at. But what are the stocks that we're keeping on our radar this morning? Ria is joining with us. Good morning, Ria.
Let's take a look at the stocks in focus today. We had a lot of companies reporting their Q1 FY25 numbers. Glenmark Pharma has reported quite a good set of numbers. They've seen good growth in their revenue and the net profit has surged over 9 times on a year-on-year basis. The EBITDA has also gone up around 35% over the previous year, and they've also seen an expansion on the EBITDA margin side, up around 373 basis points over the previous year. Ola Electric has also reported quite a good set of numbers. The revenue has gone up by around 33 times over the previous year. Although the net loss has widened to rupees 347 crores versus a loss of rupees 267 crores in Q1 of last year. The EBITDA loss though has seen an improvement, which is coming in at 131 crores in this quarter versus a loss of 182 crores in Q1 of last year. Max India Limited though has reported quite a weak set of numbers. The revenue has gone down almost 35% on a year-on-year basis, and the EBITDA loss is also widened, coming in at rupees 28 crores versus a loss of rupees 12 crores in Q1 of last year. And further, they've also approved a fundraise of rupees 250 crores. Let's also take a look at GMR Power, which has reported quite a strong set of numbers. The revenue has gone up around 43.4% on a year-on-year basis, and the net profit has come in at around 1,362 crores in this quarter versus a loss of rupees 200 crores in Q1 of last year. The EBITDA has also gone up around 148%, and the EBITDA margin has seen an expansion of 1,662 basis points over the previous year. And they've also approved an enabling resolution for raising of funds up to rupees 3,000 crores. Lastly, we have Paras Defence and Space Technologies. An associate company called Contrap Paras Technologies has received an order from L&T worth approximately rupees 305 crores, and this order is going to be executed in 47 months.
Thank you so much for that, Ria, for outlining all the stocks that have been focused in trade today. But let's go across to Ansh then to find out what's the F&O picture that we are working around with today. Ansh, good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl. So let's start with FII. So FII continue to add shorts, due to which the total long has dropped to 42 session low at around 47%, which is their bearish stance. But if we talk about Nifty, then in charts we are seeing that Nifty has been hovering within its range of around 24,000 on downside and 24,400 on upside, and this keeps the bias neutral here. Whereas if we talk about option front, then we are seeing call writing happening at a 24,200 mark, and 24,100 is where we are seeing put writing indicating a strong levels here. If you talk about Nifty Bank, then index has actually touched its 100 DMA level for the first time in 2 months, indicating that it is near a support level, which is very positive for the index. Whereas if we talk about index option, we are seeing most active call writing happening at 50,000 psychological mark, indicating some resistance around this level. Now, if we talk about F&O stocks that are in focus, then we are seeing significant long build-up happening in Laurus Lab, Vodafone Idea and Glenmark Pharma, where short build-up for Piramal Enterprises, Divis Lab and Hero MotoCorp. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that F&O update there, Ansh. But with that, we are absolutely out of time in this edition of Market Cafe. Goodbye from Sharon, myself, as well as the team who put this show together. Thanks for tuning in.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.